Hey everybody! I finally thought of an idea for a video that doesn't have anything to do with moving or unpacking or the apartment or decorating or any boring adult stuff. Join me next week when I show you the best way to balance your checkbook. And that's the Warcraft movie, which I have finally seen. If you don't want to hear me prattle on for the next 3 to 5 minutes about this, I will just say that I was unsatisfied. The movie was very pretty, somewhat nostalgic, but I was not satisfied. If you're content with that, you can end your viewership here, and there will be no hard feelings. But if you aren't content with that, and you want me to explain myself, finally, the mystery will be solved. Then here it is! I'm gonna try to do a honey hatchet sort of thing.
I tell you the things that I did like, and then I focus on what I didn't really like very much.
Because there were things that I did like about this movie. So, what I did like. It's a very pretty movie. It is very well made. I love the languages and the display of the languages, and the pacing of the movie was great. The cinematography and the music were fantastic. There were emotional pulls, many of which relied on me already being a fan, and I'm going to talk about that later. There was another review that I've seen, and the person in the review said something about, like, while seeing the cities and the different locations at first is pretty awesome, eventually you get tired of them. As a fan of the game and a player who's been in it to win it since vanilla, I have to say those were probably the most awesome parts, because it relied on nothing more than my own connection to those places on Azeroth. Seeing Stormwind evoked this feeling of giddiness, and seeing the different roofs and thinking, I have the dramatic Stormwind music in my head, which was totally different from seeing Karazhan. And the minute that we saw that tower, I was uneasy and creeped out, and it wasn't even Karazhan the way that I know it.
It was Karazhan before it was cursed. Okay, that's not even cool, never mind.
Unfortunately, these things rely on me being a fan of the game, and I'm going to talk about this and how they shot themselves in the foot with it later. Another thing that I really enjoyed were the depictions of magic. And here comes the hatchet. Stuff that I really didn't like are basic things like continuity and the mistakes that are generally made with movies like this. Movie depictions of everything are going to be different from the original. That much I know. I feel like I've accepted this, but then there were breaks in the lore and continuity that happened, and I was surprised and affronted. And the little voice in my head was just like, yeah, that's the way it always is with these movies. I don't know, I guess I just expected that since Blizz seemed to have so much invested in this, and had said that they were excited about it and supposedly in control of a lot of it, that they would adhere to their own lore, and then I remembered that Blizz retcons itself every time it releases something new, so I guess that one's just on me. Fool me once, right? I'm thinking that Movieverse and Gameverse are going to be very different, the same way that Movieverse and Comic Book Verse are different. It's a crowbar separation. Everything else boils down to style decisions and plot holes. I wasn't entirely sure why Garona became such a romantic powerhouse in this. I also have a lot of questions surrounding that flower that Medivh gave her. Like, how many Jesus Skywalker babies do we really need? That's another story entirely. Or a whole line of comic books. There wasn't much in the way of explanation. Okay, if you don't play the games or read the books or Wikidive, then you don't understand what's happening to Medivh. I own these books. I've read them more than once, even the really confusing ones, and the ones that are super lengthy. Looking at you, Richard Mack. Alright, this right here, it has the Day of the Dragon. It also has the Lord of the Clans, which is all about Thrall and Durnhold Keep and all that jazz. Then it has the Last Guardian, kind of stuff that we saw here with Medivh and Khadgar and Garona and the First War, the Orcs versus Humans. The point is, these are my trash babies, and I expected more of this in the movie. While they pulled general ideas from it, it wasn't completely coherent. They didn't have any mentions of Sargeras, the curses put upon Khadgar and Garona, which I guess are just not existent now in the movieverse. It's whatever. I find myself really hoping that there's a super mega ultra director's cut extended edition like with The Lord of the Rings, and that there will be stuff in deleted scenes that's put in there and that will help to patchwork this into something more fitting in comparison to the Azeroth that I already know. We were talking about the games in comparison to the movie and the books and everything. Since Warcraft is orcs versus humans, that means that it fits very well with this movie. So we were saying that we really hope that this movie makes enough so that they can actually put their backs into a decent trilogy. If we have Warcraft 2 and it follows the games, then that means that the next one can focus more on Lordaeron, the scattering of the clans, the demoralizing of the orcs, and the beginnings of the Plague and the fall of Arthas. And that would be a tall order, but it lines up the third one to be all about the Lich King. If the third one focused on the fall of Arthas and the invasion of Quel'Thalas, and eventually getting onto the Frozen Throne, that would be fantastic. And I feel like asking for that in a movie really isn't too much. Like, that is doable. It's the lead up that's gonna suck. Thrall and Durnhold escaping, and the departure of the orcs, and how they meet the trolls in the Torn, and
How are they even gonna do the Taurens and Night Elves? Again, I mean, Medivh existed in many places at once, or perhaps many different times at once. You know what?
never mind. Suffice to say, a lot has to happen with the orcs, the night elves, the Taurens, and the trolls while Arthas does his Arthas thing. Overall, I just feel like this review is not satisfying. It's like, the things that I liked, the cinematography, the places, the depictions of magic, all that relies on love for the game. And my love for the game inhibits me from being fully satisfied with what is portrayed because it's not adhering to the game.
How many times have I lost the game already?
I mean, it's not the worst. It's not like it's Percy Jackson or Cirque du Freak or Aragon. But saying that it's not that bad is damning with faint praise. And this is where I basically ask you guys what you thought of the movie. Like, if you saw the movie, were you satisfied with it? Are you hopeful, or is this just another example of Hollywood doing things it really shouldn't be doing and discouraging fans? It's harder to go to the second movie when you remember that the first movie just disappointed you. And with that, I'm gonna close this and quit my yammering. Miss Moon signing off with a very discouraged Loktar Ogar.